social, finance, and economic development. Mobilize our zakat, infak, sodakoh, and especially awqaf to be more productive, supporting our economic growth, but as well as sustainable inclusion economic growth. And our leaders of the history, Prophet Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Khalifah Rasidin in the past already give example how mobilize this endowment fund to be a productive and supported economic and inclusive growth, sustainable growth. This is, I think, what I'm trying to say to you. My dear friend, Dr. Ravi asked me what my 2 cents of humble opinion. This is my humble opinion. Let me go to the detail what I'm trying to say. Let's put my slide, please. How we need to accelerating sustainable financial inclusion through Islamic social finance. With the case of Indonesia. Next slide. 3 key messages. We have been learning from our Prophet and Khalifah that mobilizing zakat, infak, sodakoh, and awqaf has been there and should be now and to the future to improve the welfare of our people, economic welfare, especially to address remaining problem of COVID, especially toward more sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Second, what we learn from our Prophet and Khalifah. 3 important. To be trustworthy. When we are managing zakat, infak, sodakoh, and awqaf, the first thing is, of course, trust, governance, an important and productive project to be put in front of the investor. Very important. Second, to be innovative in the model business. So many model business that it can be innovative. Whether we're talking about water refinement, whether we're talking about agriculture, whether we're talking about building mall, building school, education, we can be innovative to structure the project in such a way commercial and social, economic and financial development can be combined together. Just imagine in the past. Now we already seeing some of the hotels that being developed in the past already still in Makkah and Medina, catering the need of our Hajj and Umrah, and giving all of the blessing of Allah. We can be innovative in designing the project, which is combined with social and commercial project. With that, then we can structure the funding, the endowment fund. Some of them commercially, some of them from blended finance, from zakat, infak, sodakoh, and awqaf. To be innovative in designing the project as well as the financing. This is very important. And the third, digitalization. Digitalization is very important in mobilizing the investor, the muzaki, the donator, the sponsor. In the past, we're thinking the donator, the sponsor is $millions. But maybe now it's just we can mobilize $10, $1. But look at our millennial. There are billions of them. $10 per person through digitalization, through QR, through fast payment can be a big number. Digital can be introduced to mobilize the donator, the sponsor, the muzaki, all of the people as well as our fellow millennial. They are keen to invest for akhirat, but they want to be just a single-handed. This is one of the digitization. And that aspect, the collaboration jama'ah is very important. Let's strengthen our jama'ah, collaboration. Synergy is the key that we learn from our prophet and Khalifah to get together. Strengthening synergy, collaboration. So there's three key messages that I want to send to you at this very important seminar. Let's, under G20 presidency, recover together and recover stronger. Let's mobilize zakat, infak, sodako, wakaf to be supporting, addressing the hunger of our people, food, as well as also elevating the social welfare. Like our prophet and Khalifah already teaching us, leading example to us. Two, which is trust, is very important. Governance is very important. Second, to be innovative in designing the project as well as the finance. And the third, digitalization, to reach out the common people, especially the youngest. And three, jama'ah, the power of we, together, synergy. That's the three key messages. I will go fast the slide. Next. The concept of Islamic social finance. We talk about swap, zakat, production, consumption. For a low cost, for empowerment, for infrastructure, supporting our economic growth. This is zakat, infak, sodakoh, and wakaf. This is social finance. But there is also commercial finance, bank financing, sukuk, all of the commercial. That can also be used for mobilizing and productive, and combining the two, becoming a blended finance, the endowment fund. Those the key. Next, we have to contemplate what needs to be done to address why, especially in our case Indonesia, the realization of zakat, infak, sodakoh, and wakaf for supporting our economic development and social welfare still far from our desire. Zakat, infak, and sodakoh, 327 IDR trillion. As well as realization, 14.9, only 4.5% of the potential. Cash wakaf, 0.4% of the potential. Land wakaf, the certified, 58%. And of course, we have to do how to mobilize and to be productive. Next slide. What the innovation that we have to do? Regulation, instrument, digitalization, as well as also the capacity building of our Emil and Nazir that present here. Regulation, of course, talking to accommodate for further development of Islamic social finance, such as digitalization, less of synchronization, of harmonization, of regulation, more simple regulation. Instrument, as I said, we can combine not only social finance, but also a blended social and commercial finance. Mostly our instrument and mobilizing through the mosque, school, and cemetery. But generalized, I'm seeing in Indonesia, the youngest, the millennial, they are becoming rich. They need to be reached out, to be more simple, I think it's very important. There is potential there. That's why digitalization is very important. Because reaching out those common people are very important. Data digitization. Of course, about Emil and Nazir, how we need to have a knowledge sharing. The capability of Amil and Nazir not only to innovate in innovation and developing the project finance, but also reaching out. The more important need to be from the outcome to the input. Not mobilizing fund first and then thinking about the project. We have to design project first and then how to structure finance and mobilize the investor. I think we can introduce that. The mindset is not, why don't we just mobilize the fund and thinking later what we need to use? We have to think reverse. How can we introduce agri-farming in pesantren and madrasah? How the structure of the project, is it can be mobilized through this fund? How to mobilize that? And then introducing digitalization, reaching out. So we have to reverse the logic and the mindset. I think this, of course, the capacity entrepreneurship is very important. I learned a lot about fikih. I do not know fikih, to be true, to be frank with you. I'm patient boy. I'm not being taught with Islam properly. But I learned a lot about fikih. But in Bank Indonesia, we share our capacity of developing project and business model to increase the entrepreneurship. In Indonesia, I'm learning about fikih, which is in Indonesia ngaji fikih to pesantren. But we are going to do pesantren, we are also teaching our business, our entrepreneurship. That's why pesantren learn from Bank Indonesia ngaji sugih, learning to be rich. So we have jargon minister, Rawi in Indonesia, let's get together between Bank Indonesia and pesantren. I'm trying, my fellow, to learn about fikih, ngaji fikih, study fikih. And we also, the pesantren learn from us to be rich, to be economic progressing, to be business, to be financial. What we call it, study to be rich. In Indonesia called ngaji sugih. This is the jargon, ngaji fikih, ngaji sugih. That's the power of jamaah. Please teach us about fikih. I want to learn about fikih, so I can teach about the business, about developing the project. Next slide. This is what we introduce in a number of organization and also coordination. In national, we have Komite Nasional Ekonomi Keuangan Syariah, National Committee and Development of Syariah Economy and Finance, when Central Bank is member of that. Minister of Finance, also BWI is an Indonesian Wakaf Board. Also, National Board of Zakat, Basnas. And we get together to strengthen our collaboration, our jamaah to move for institutional strengthening, infrastructure strengthening, and instrument development. Next slide, please. Let me go one by one. Institutional strengthening. We already working globally of the core principle to build the trust, both the investor, the donor, the muzaki, and the recipient, as well as also the management of Amil, of Nazir. We already agreeing on strengthening zakat and wakaf core principle about legal foundation, both on zakat wakaf supervision, zakat wakaf governance, intermediary function, risk management, syariah governance. This is very important. We are trying to also implement on this on the operational layer. Technical notes, the table there, already also development over the years. Governance is very important Because if we cannot build trust, then I think we cannot mobilize and invest. Next slide. To be strengthening digitalization. My fellow minister, Mr. Rafi, and a distinguished, if you go throughout the country of Indonesia, you just need your cell phone to go to Jannah. In the past, we have to take out our wallet. Everywhere in the mosque, we can just collect zakah, infak, sodakah through our one standard, QR Indonesian standard. A way of reaching out people. In the past, of course, usually in our wallet here, only small amount. But using QR Indonesian standard, we can do big amount. And this spreading throughout the country. To collect zakat. We also introduce QR Indonesian for collection of wakaf, infak, sodaqah. But we are introducing also QR Indonesian standard digitalization in traditional market, modern market, health facility, education, transformation. Innovation in digitalization can reach out the common people. My son, they go everywhere. Then they want to do the zakat. In the past, must go to mosque and then signing and so on. Now, the contract, the declaration, the doa already being put there. You just click. It's very important digital. And we can introduce other aspects. Next slide. On the instrument. When we meet IS, Islamic Development Bank in some Elsa, Egypt, I share this. How innovation in developing the project and the financing is very important. Islamic financing, as I said, there is bank, money market, capital market, social financing, integration of social and commercial financing, others. How we can introduce Islamic finance combined together. I was sharing Indonesian experiences on Islamic model of financing innovation. One, cash wing wakaf link sukuk. Our innovation with Minister of Finance and government agency, which is everybody that have sukuk, government securities. They can mobilize, we can mobilize to just declare and committed their return to be wakaf, which is cash wakaf link sukuk. Also sukuk link wakaf, the development of a number of projects that the financing coming from sukuk, as well as securities crowdfunding. A number of agriculture projects we are mobilizing through securities crowdfunding. This is combination of innovation and project and financing. Islamic public-private partnership, the big project. But what we're talking today, Endowment Fund, Islamic Development Fund. Next slide. With that, let me congratulate the introduction of APIF. This is one of the innovation of instrument development in integrating social and commercial finance. With APIF, participate in financing wakaf endowment by building partnership with local wakaf or nazir on productive wakaf project in other countries, and this is expected successfully to be implemented in Indonesia. I will not go into detail because my dear friend, my moderator, will dwell into detail. And my dear friend, brothers, Minister of Senegal will also deal with this. We are looking forward on this development of APIF, mobilizing Islamic social financing, combining with commercial financing to address the problem of today. So we can recover together, recover stronger. To learn from our message over the past 2 years pandemic, to be development of green, environment friendly, to be inclusive, social, sustainable, but also to be social project, social financing, and through digitalization. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always provide guidance and blessing to all of us. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, His Excellency Dr. Peri Warjio, Governor of Bank Indonesia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, next let us hear a little insight from His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Sulaiman Al-Jasser, the President of Islamic Development Bank, who are unfortunately unable to join us physically here in Bali, but we are very happy as we are very grateful as he will join us virtually. So ladies and gentlemen, we will now hear a leader's insight once again from President of Islamic Development Bank.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. My friend Governor Peri Warjio, my friend Minister Hot, Your Excellency Koo Dong-yu, the Director General of Food and Agriculture Organization, Your Excellency Dr. Al-Muraikhi, the Special Advisor to the UN General Secretary on Public-Private Partnership and Islamic Social Financing, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good afternoon to everyone. First, I would like to extend my special thanks to my dear friend, Pak Peri, Governor of Bank Indonesia, and his team for welcoming us and in co-hosting our event today. I am honored to address such a distinguished audience of experts and professionals at this high-level discussion on financial inclusion with a focus on the role of awqaf and endowments in a G20 event. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are meeting today at a very challenging time for the entire world. A world that was just starting to recover from one of the worst pandemics in human history, when this recovery was challenged by an uncertain geopolitical and macroeconomic context. The conflict in Eastern Europe is casting a shadow on the global economy, leaving no country unaffected. The effects of this political crisis are multiple. Food security challenges, higher energy and commodity prices, and disruptions in global trade, remittances, tourism, and capital flows. In light of these challenges and to better respond to the emerging needs of its member countries, the Islamic Development Bank has realigned its strategy for the period 2023-2025. The focus now is on boosting recovery from the economic losses inflicted by the pandemic, while laying the foundations for tackling poverty, building greater prosperity, and sustained inclusive and green economic growth. In order to achieve these strategic objectives, the Islamic Development Bank will finance priority development projects in its member countries under two strategic pillars. The first aims at developing green, resilient, and sustainable infrastructure. And the second pillar is to foster inclusive human capital development. In such difficult times, the Islamic Development Bank recognizes the importance of sustainable finance to support a strong recovery and drive green growth. We believe that sustainable finance markets have the potential to mobilize the necessary capital efficiently. These markets need the necessary infrastructure and policy frameworks. Prior to the pandemic, global debt had reached unprecedented and unsustainable heights. According to the Institute of International Finance, there was in November 2019 about $250 trillion of global debt. This was 3 times the global GDP. The situation during the pandemic worsened further as debt became 3.5 times the global GDP by the end of 2021. Therefore, any solution to combat the present crisis should be devised in a manner that avoids the creation of further indebtedness of individuals, businesses, societies, and countries. Most developing countries are facing serious threats of debt sustainability, and their fiscal space has already shrunk with no capacity for further borrowing. In response, we believe that many of these challenges need non-conventional solutions, which are adequately found in the core tenets of the Islamic economic and financial system. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Islamic Development Bank is committed to using Islamic social financing to mitigate the impact of the pandemic and overcome financial constraints, funding gaps, and financing inequalities. I agree with my friend Governor Berry that Islamic social financing can stimulate economic activity and promote social welfare, financial inclusion, and shared prosperity. This can be done by utilizing the traditional instruments such as zakat, sadaqah, waqf, and microfinance instruments by using modern tools such as blockchain, fintech, and artificial intelligence. The bank has contributed to reinvigorating the developmental role of Awqaf by establishing the Awqaf Properties Investment Fund, APIF, in 2021, as also was emphasized by Governor Perry. APIF double mandate of achieving sustainable financial returns and social impact is entirely aligned with the bank's strategy and the Global 2030 Sustainable Development Goals agenda. APIF promotes Awqaf as a social finance-based instrument for development while observing the relevant principles of Islamic jurisprudence or fiqh. Islamic Development Bank through APIF has supported various non-profit beneficiaries ranging from governments to research centers and charitable organizations, helping increase public service standards where its projects are located. When its mandate to finance the establishment and development of real estate endowments, with its mandate to finance the establishment and development of real estate endowments, APIF is a unique fund in the community of multilateral development banks, with a strong focus on long-term international financial sustainability. Indeed, it has provided proof of concept, which is now ready to be scaled up. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud of the Islamic Development Bank Group's contribution to Indonesia's socio-economic development and impacting people's lives. Today, Indonesia is one of our most active member countries. In fact, the total Islamic Development Bank Group financing for Indonesia stands around $6 billion, in addition to providing political and credit risk insurance and sukuk investments. I would like to congratulate the government of Indonesia for bringing to the G20's presidency such enthusiastic initiatives and discussion topics under the motto, recover together, recover stronger. I would also like to reiterate the Islamic Development Bank Group's commitment to further develop the strategic cooperation with the government of Indonesia to ensure that 2022 is a special year in our partnership, a year where we can all recover together and recover stronger. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My dear brothers, President of Islamic Development Bank, which is I admire your leadership, your strong leadership, President Al-Jazer. First of all, with my deep condolence, innalillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, with our prayer, your beloved uncle will enter to Jannah in his blessing, husnul khotimah. Amin, amin, ya rabbal alamin. Al-Fatihah. Amin, amin, ya rabbal alamin. Second, I'm very, very great honor that you spend this precious time with us. This I always say to you, my dear brother, your strong leadership, your commitment, not only building the strong ISDB, but also to be more present of ISDB everywhere, including Indonesia. We are already feeling, seeing, also believing ISDB footing in Indonesia, becoming stronger and stronger. Not only developing of our economic development, but also deeply participated in the social economic finance, increasing the welfare of our people, including also what we talked today about mobilizing this fund, promoting Endowment Fund, also mobilizing APIF for the best use. Once again, thank you, my dear brother, President Al-Jazer. All the best to you. Of course, we will be soon. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always bless us. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much once again to Dr. Muhammad Sulaiman Al-Jaser, the President of Islamic Development Bank. We are sending our prayer and also dua from Bali, Indonesia. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, in Islam, we have a well-established concept of endowment known as Awqaf or Waqaf, conceived during the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. When Umar ibn al-Khattab acquired a piece of land, he asked the Prophet how best to use it. The Prophet then advised him to make the land unalienable and to use it for the benefit of the unprivileged and those in need. With that, the land was established as Awqaf, and this inspiring example from the past remains relevant today. It can play an important example and also important part in our case to develop a more dynamic, progressive, and inclusive economy. A stronger and more expand implementation of cross-border sustainable endowment fund and also Awqaf is essential in order to recover together, recover stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, this high-level discussion then will be led by Dr. Rami Ahmad, the ISDB Sherpa for G20. Dr. Rami is the Special Envoy on the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, and the ISDB's G20 Sherpa, in addition to his duties as Senior Advisor to the President of the Islamic Development Bank. He is supporting the President on global advocacy activities, including the World Economic Forum, and as a Sherpa for the heads of MDBS Forum. He is also a member on the board of directors of ICD, the private sector arm of the ISTP Group. So now without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our moderator for this session, Dr. Rami Ahmad. Moderator Dr. Rami, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulihi al-Amin, Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Sadiq al-Amin. I am so delighted to really have the opportunity and the honor to moderate this seminar, which is very important. We are blessed and honored by having Governor Perry with us, President Al-Jasser, as you have seen, despite the difficulties. He was so keen on being with us actually in person, but Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, we had to listen to his ideas and his thoughts, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I thank the organizers, Bank Indonesia and the Islamic Development Bank on this timely subject. What can I say? After the stage has been set by Governor Perry and President Al-Jasser, and I have to thank even the MC, Ms. Diane. We're talking about the awqaf, and in this day and age of mobilizing resources for development and for inclusion. And awqaf has been normally in Islam as a charitable endowment. The role in this Islamic civilization has been evident in all the socio-economic activities. In every geographic dimension, in every time era, you would hear about the awqaf in the Islamic civilization. But this doesn't stops there. In the West, the idea of endowment also has played a major role to provide a lifeline in cultural and economic and other social activities, even in museums, hospitals, research centers, universities. I mean, don't go very far. Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, they are using the concept of endowment, which originated in the Islamic civilization and the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which has played a major role in the development. And I think the concept is very attractive. It's a very simple concept. You set aside some capital and you invest. The return will be earmarked for a specific use as designated by the endower, and it goes for eternity, inshallah. How could it not be very attractive from a religious point of view as a sadaqah jariyah? This is not a one-time charity, it's something that will go for generations, and your grandchildren will benefit and reap the benefits of such an act. But even from a secular point of view, the power of awqaf, the power of endowment has not been really given the justice that it should receive. So this event really will aim, we have heard very nicely, very eloquently from Governor Perry about what Indonesia is doing in this field, but we will hear today also some global and some international experience. And maybe what a better place to really talk about the awqaf benefiting Muslims and non-Muslims than Indonesia on the margins of the finance ministers of the G20. So I think this was a brilliant move on your part to really have this event here at this time. So hopefully we'll be listening to a great panelists. We'll be listening to their expertise. And we have with us today, first of all, like Governor Perry said, this is a distinguished minister from Senegal, by the way. He took the flight for 32 hours to be with us today physically. So this chair is reserved to Minister Amado Hot. So please, Mr. Amado Hot, if you could join me here on this stage. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Governor Perry. Appreciate it. Please. If you need any coffee, please let us know. We hope you are still awake after all this long flight. Thank you very much for being with us, but he will share with us the perspective from Senegal and Africa. Also with us is Dr. Chi Dong Yi, and forgive me if I mispronounce the name, Dr. Ji. He's the Director General of FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization from Rome. If we can see him on the screen, that will be nice. Please help me welcome the DG of FAO, please. Is he with us on the screen? Yes, here he is, please. Thank you very much for taking the time and being with us. Also with us, His Excellency Dr. Ahmed Al-Muraikhi, Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General. And he's with us with his beautiful smile also. Please help me welcome him. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. The organizers invited Mr. Bill Gates to be with us, but as you know, the time, probably it's 2 a.m. right now in Washington, Seattle, I think, I don't know, but it was very difficult to really get his commitment to be with us, but he was keen also on supporting this seminar, and he asked the president of the Gates Foundation, president of Global Growth and Opportunities, Mr. Roger Voorhees, to give us his take on the financial inclusion and the way forward. So in Arabic we say "Ma la yudrak kulluh, la yutrak julluh." At least we will get the thoughts of the Gates Foundation as one of the very important global philanthropic organization. Mr. Roger Voorhees is really a very seasoned person. He had a lot of activities and extensive experience in financial inclusions, in particular because of his long and extended experience in the financial sector. And with your permission, Minister and the gentlemen joining us virtually, let's start with the video from the Gates Foundation, and then we will start our conversation. Please, if we can play the few minutes from the Gates Foundation. Can we, please?
Distinguished panelists and guests, thank you for including the Foundation to share our insights on this critical topic. Our co-chair, Bill Gates, sends his regrets. He wished he was able to take part in these substantive discussions today. Please accept his best wishes for a successful dialogue, for creating a financial system that provides opportunities for everyone in society. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has supported global financial inclusion efforts for more than 15 years because this is an area where relatively modest investments can unlock extraordinary dividends for an economy, but also lay the foundations for greater resilience for its people. Recently released figures from the World Bank Findex, the global measure of financial inclusion, shows progress in financial inclusion around the world. Account ownership has reached 71% of people in developing countries, up from 63% in 2017, and for the first time, the closing of the gender gap in some countries. This reflects the impact of a development and market community working together. However, this is not the time to declare victory. We need to keep making progress on account access, but also drive greater usage of the services low-income families need. We know people are not statically poor, but rise and fall through poverty. Once people have access to formal transaction accounts and a suite of high-quality financial tools, they are better able to withstand the shocks and capture opportunities to move out of poverty. When a child comes down with malaria, her parents can use digital wallets or bank accounts to receive digital transfers from a wider support network of friends and family that help cover her medical fees. Small business owners can access lower-cost credit to invest in productive assets to grow their businesses. Financial inclusion also enables more transparent and responsive governance. According to the World Bank, 1.3 billion people received an emergency cash transfer during the pandemic, cushioning them from the economic shock of the crisis. Here in Indonesia, the Village Funds Cash Transfer Program reached 43 million beneficiaries with critical emergency support, and the Family Hope Program was able to quickly increase the frequency and benefit amount to existing program participants. Countries with inclusive financial systems were able to deliver these payments transparently, quickly, and safely. To reap all the benefits, countries can invest in 4 proven solutions. First, countries must upgrade their financial regulations to create space for companies and industry to innovate, while protecting customers against the risk posed by digital platforms. Traditional banking regulations were built based on a business model defined by brick-and-mortar banks. Crafting an inclusive regulatory framework requires thinking about how to enable far-flung networks of agents who turn cash into mobile money and back into cash, how to change know-your-customer rules so they don't lock the poor out of the financial system, and how to strengthen cybersecurity and data privacy safeguards. When countries get their financial sector regulations right, the benefits of financial inclusion can accrue rapidly. In 2015, the Bank of Ghana allowed non-banks to own and run mobile money businesses. 5 years later, the share of Ghanaians with a mobile money account had increased from 13% to 60%. Second, people living in poor and marginalized communities tend to lack access to formal identification. By investing in inclusive digital ID systems, governments can ensure that everyone can meet ID requirements to open and use financial accounts and fully participate in a modern digital economy. India's Aadhaar ID system, for example, has helped double India's financial inclusion rates over the past 7 years, from 35 to 78%. Third, governments and industry can help solve the barriers consumers face in current closed-loop financial systems by investing in real-time interoperable payment systems that link new payment providers together with traditional banks to drive innovation and keep costs for consumers down, while enabling individuals, businesses, and government agencies to transact with one another quickly and easily, regardless of which provider hosts an underlying account. Fortunately, governments seeking to upgrade their national payment and identity infrastructure need not start from scratch. They can make use of new open-source payment and identity platforms such as Mojaloop and Mosep, built on best-in-class privacy, data protection, and cybersecurity frameworks. These open-source solutions are already accelerating digital financial inclusion in several countries, including Morocco and the Philippines. And here in Indonesia, investments are underway to enable the existing national ID system to better support financial services use cases and the potential to dramatically reduce the cost and time needed to onboard new customers without sacrificing due diligence. Lastly, but critically, countries should focus on financial inclusion for women. Indonesia is one of the few countries in the world which has eliminated the gender gap in account ownership, with women's account ownership exceeding that of men. When women can fully participate in the economy, they enhance the prosperity of their family, community, and country. Indonesia has been particularly smart in designing social protection programs, which put money directly in the hands of women and building trust by clearly communicating the nature of the program. Yet, even in countries that have closed the gender gap, including Indonesia and India, we see gender gaps in usage that tell us that we cannot track access alone, but need to also focus on how to make accounts and financial services more useful, more relevant, and easier to access than they are today. Enabling access to digital accounts is just the first step on the journey to economic resilience. And we must continue to support policies, infrastructure, products, and services that elevate women's lives and livelihoods. If countries can get these 4 pillars right, they will accelerate their recovery in the short term and pave the way for equitable, sustainable growth over the long term. Thank you for the opportunity to share our learnings working in financial inclusion over the past decade. Financially, including the world's unbanked, will require equally innovative, collaborative approaches. I hope that the Lives and Livelihood Fund that was established in partnership with Gulf donors and the Islamic Development Bank will be a platform where we will see more innovative investments for financial inclusion in the bank's member countries. And we look forward to the opportunity to work with other leaders in this field, including Bank Indonesia and the United Nations. Thank you.
Actually, we thank the Gates Foundation for this very informative video, and you can see how the understanding of financial inclusion is really clear from the 4 pillars that he mentioned. And I think you heard the echo of these 4 pillars in the presentation of Governor Perry when he started setting the stage. And I think we also in IDB are very proud of Indonesia really for making progress in all the 4 pillars that he mentioned. So congratulations to you, and we hope that by the way, the Islamic Development Bank, as Mr. Vorsi he said, we are partners in something called the Life and Livelihood Fund, $500 million in participation with the Gates Foundation and other donors from the Gulf. In particular, interest is really the inclusion in general. Today, perhaps we will focus a little bit on financial inclusion, but we think that the idea of awqaf, you can see how powerful it could go, not only in the Muslim world, but global-wise. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. You can see that this mode of financing, when it's used, it brings a lot of fruit everywhere it is used in. So I'm glad we had this from the Gates Foundation. We are hoping to have Mr. Gates himself. He's very good friend of IDB, and we hope to have him in future events, inshallah. Now I will turn to my friend, His Excellency Minister Hott, coming all the way from Senegal to be with us. And I will ask him to begin with, maybe I will use the Gates Foundation emphasis on regulation as a segue to my first question to you on regulations in Senegal. We know that there was an awqaf law in 2015, and I'm wondering if you could share with us how did this law come about, and how was it really crafted, and how effective it is really in advancing the cause of awqaf. Mr. Please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rami, and would like to thank the Bank Indonesia and the Islamic Development Bank for the opportunity to participate in this session ahead of our meetings that will start tomorrow. Financial inclusion is critical for the lowest income countries in particular, because the big issue that we have on financial inclusion is mostly affecting Africa, affecting developing countries. In Senegal, we are very open to innovation, whether it's on the mobile technology, whether it's on innovative instruments to finance entrepreneurs, to finance small and medium enterprises. Hungry about innovation. That's why when the Islamic Development Bank brought the idea of having the WAF regulations in Senegal for the first time in 2015, we jumped on the occasion and we worked with the bank to pass a bill on WAF to allow Senegal also to make sure that certain population benefits from these innovative instruments. And the bill has been passed since then. With the help of the bank, we created a WAF authority that is in charge of regulating and helping implement this idea. And since then, we created the agency in charge, recruited the staff, and now actually we are working on major projects that will benefit the Quranic schools in Senegal, for example. And those two projects are being funded by the Islamic Development Bank Group, the Islamic Solidarity Fund, the bank itself, and the, I would say, the fund, the equity fund as well. And we would like to thank the bank for this great support. And it is a success in Senegal, and other countries in the sub-region in West Africa are trying to implement also the same framework and to do exactly what Senegal did with the Islamic Development Bank.
Thank you. If I could follow up on this question with, if you take it and upscale it a little bit, and if you can maybe take the African context in consideration here. And by the way, Senegal this year is representing the African Union in the G20. Perhaps we can also ask you to use this hat to see how can Awqaf investments really be enlarged to help the entire continent of Africa. Where do you see the potential and where do you see the challenges in doing that?
You know, the continent needs both a social infrastructure and economic infrastructure. And for the social infrastructure, we cannot rely only on donors' money or the budget of the government. And using structures as the WAFC would be something very critical, in particular in the areas of education, in the areas of health, but even in the areas of entrepreneurship, because on our continent, the informal sector is a very big sector. And the informal sector requires a lot of soft resources because the risks are very high when you are lending to the informal sector. So having some stream of revenue coming from WAFC investments that will be used, for example, to de-risk those transactions or to provide, let's say, first loss on a sustainable basis can help actually that informal sector take off. And I would like to see, for example, the G20 really prioritize financial inclusion and make it as part of the agenda and give directives to the MDBs, for example, to provide more concessional resources to governments so that we can invest in agencies or in structures that will lend money, let's say, to the informal sector, for example, to the poorest people where the risk actually can be also the highest. We've seen that, let's say, with Senegal setting up, for example, an agency called the DARE, which is a delegation for fast-tracked entrepreneurship for youth and women. And that agency is funded by government and some multilateral partners and bilateral partners. And the agency is doing very well because it's doing things on a fast-track basis. You're not going to be waiting for 1 year to get a loan, but it can be pretty fast. And the paperwork that is being asked to the entrepreneurs is not like when you go to banks. The constraint we have there is the availability of resource on a long-term basis.
That's a great challenge. I'll come back to you, Minister Amado, but let me go right now to Dr. Shu, the Director General of the FAO. If you can see him on the screen. By the way, Dr. Shu was a vice minister in his home country, China. And you know, all of us know that in China, probably the most successful country in lifting people out of poverty in huge numbers. The numbers are staggering, maybe 20% of the global population down to a very insignificant number when it comes to development. His vision was founded on the belief that freedom from hunger is a basic human right. And he's now the DG of the Food and Agriculture Organization. And I don't know if he's seeing me. I'd like to see his face so I can direct the question to him directly if possible. But he always characterized himself as a man with Asian soul and a global mind. So Dr. Shu, with the looming
Thank you. I
food
saw
price.
you.
You see me? Okay,
saw
that's
you.
good. I was hoping to see you. Okay, great. So with the looming food crisis, regardless of geopolitical analysis of this, we're interested in your thoughts on what are the major challenges faced by the farmers, and especially the smallholder farmers in developing and emerging countries. And perhaps as you tell us about the challenges, maybe also you can tell us what are the remedies you see from the top position in the Food and Agriculture Organization. Please, the floor is yours, and we are very happy and grateful that you were able to set out the time for us. Thank you. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning from Rome and the moderate. First of all, I would salute the governor of Central Bank, Perry, and also Minister of Senegal, together other colleagues and the Bank of the Islamic Bank. We enjoy the close cooperation with all of you during past years on behalf of FAO. And more important, I think as learning from Governor Perry and the ministers, there are a lot of experience from the members. So especially, the Governor Barry, he said he's a village boy. I'm also a village boy, small village in South China. So, and we understood that the small farmers, smallholder farmers in Africa, in Near East, in Latin America, and in Asia, of course. So I think the first small-scale agriculture sectors traditionally face a wide range of critical barriers that constrain their access to the financial and the marketing service. Because we are small, we are poor. So we don't have money. We don't have asset. And the banker, you are a banker. You always cost the insurance and all this asset, the garbage. How I can offer? We can offer the trust. We can offer honest. And that's why I'm so delighted you have this kind of inclusive financial service dialogue. Second, I think also we estimate the particularly vulnerable categories of agriculture sector, such as women and youth, indigenous people, they are facing more. And like in Nigeria case, and 24% are systematically less access to the financial and compared to women even. So, and as Minister of Senegal mentioned, also the small media enterprises lack sufficient access to the financial. But that's a crucial, all this barrier to the increase also compass the supply side of financial service. And last but not least, I think also informal source of financial to meet their financial need and create more and high cost. That's why in the village, in the rural areas, always farmers borrow the money from their neighbors with a high cost of interest rate. So that's all this. I think it's a critical. Now it's financial inclusion is critical enabling for achieve the sustainable development goals. I firmly believe that increase the financial and investment in rural areas are vital to achieve the food security for all and reduce rural poverty. As a solution, you ask, first, we need the public administrative arrangement. Like Senegal mentioned, you have established a fast track to offer the financial service to the smallholders. And also, Nobel laureate Yunus, many years ago, also established a small credit fund for the farmers. And now, as a case experience from Indonesia, also, we can have a crowd fundraising for the smallholder farmer, for the small businessman. Let's start the business of stops. It's very important for agro-food systems. And third, I think we have to develop the policy to get all the key players to support the smallholder farmers. And last but not least, like religions and all the social financial protection platforms should be strengthened by the rich people. I'm so delighted Bill Gates and the Melinda Foundations, also together with other international financial institutions, work together. So by hand-in-hand initiative 3 years ago, we should get the public, government, private sector, civil society, academia, and work together to help the smallholder farmers to transform agro-food system together. And then we can really build together, build stronger. I thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Shu. And I think the lesson learned, always listen to the village boys when they speak, because they know what they are talking about, I guess. So thank you very much. I'll come back to you, hopefully time allowing, with another question if I could. But now I would like to move to His Excellency Ambassador Ahmed Al-Muraikhi from Qatar. He's the Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General. And before assuming this position, he had extensive work in humanitarian work also in Qatar and in the region. He's been leading, حياك الله دكتور أحمد, يا مرحبا.
يا مرحبتين, الله يحييك دكتور سامي.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you're hearing us. You have led a very, very ambitious program, a series of seminars, hopefully leading to a roadmap for including Islamic finance, in particular zakat, sadaqah, and awqaf, in the agenda of the United Nations, in the 2030 agenda, helping in filling the gap for financing the SDGs. Maybe I could use this as a first question. How successful have you been? Could you tell us and tell the audience here about these series of seminars, and where are you at this point? Go ahead, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala Rasulullah. First of all, thank you, Dr. Rami, and I would like to also thank His Excellency Dr. Barry, Governor of the Bank of Indonesia, as well as His Excellency Dr. Muhammad, the President of Islamic Development Bank, for the invitation and to be with this panelist. And also I would like to welcome my friend, Dr. Qadoon, the Director General for FAO, as well as His Excellency Minister Amadou Hott, Minister of Economy of Republic Senegal. Dr. Rami, regarding the initiative and the idea of the initiative that we started last Ramadan, and it was also a partnership with the Islamic Development Bank. It's been going very well, but let me highlight it a little bit about the awqaf and how the awqaf play big role in the Islamic culture and all aspects of the life. Awqaf and other Islamic social finance, it's very powerful tools, but what we need actually, we need to utilize these tools, and how can we alignment these tools with the alignment of our investment with the SDGs in one hand, and in the other hand, how can we create synergy between awqaf and other finance sector, as well as it won't be possible without having a mechanism that helping the people or the investor. This system or mechanism could be international mechanism that help Muslim not only in the Muslim country, but the Muslim all over the world to donate and contribute in awqaf and zakat. So the idea is, how can we have and build, create a mechanism within a UN system that help a donor to pay their zakat, pay their donation, pay their awqaf within the international system, which is the UN system. And then this will help also to fill the gap that facing all the UN agencies, whether in humanitarian or in development, because the SDGs, there is a big gap, and we are not away from the timing, which is 2030. So we want to fill this gap. If we go to the zakat, for example, we have around 600 billions a year if we can collect it. So, and awqaf, it is the same. As Dr. Barry mentioned, how much the investment in awqaf and in zakat. So you can imagine how it will be if we have a mechanism help the people to pay their donation. And of
yang
course,
dapat membantu masyarakat untuk membayarkan donasi ini. Dan tentunya kita harus pastikan bahwa mekanisme ini merupakan mekanisme yang terpercaya ya. Kalau kita bisa kumpulkan ini semua dan kita kelola dengan baik untuk meningkatkan kesejahteraan, maka SDG dan juga aspek kemanusiaan ini akan dapat kita tingkatkan terus dari tahun ke tahun. Dan ini akan mudah diprediksi juga karena kita dapat menghitung estimasi dari wakaf tersebut. Selain itu, nanti kita juga dapat mengembangkan proyek dengan lebih baik. Begitu pula dengan zakat, seperti yang kita ketahui. Kita dapat menghitung zakat yang akan dibayarkan setiap tahun, dan ini akan membantu kita untuk melakukan perencanaan dengan baik dan juga dengan efektif. Oleh karena itu, saya rasa keuangan sosial Islam ini idealnya lebih berfokus pada jemaah seperti yang disampaikan oleh Dr. Perry. Tentunya kita harus melakukan ini secara bersama-sama. Kita perlu berfokus pada aspek ini, yaitu bagaimana kita dapat mengumpulkan semua pihak secara bersama-sama untuk juga bekerja sama secara kolektif. Alih-alih bekerja secara terpisah. Mekanisme yang saya bahas, dan ini merupakan hasil dari beberapa seminar, kita berupaya untuk memastikan bahwa mekanisme ini dapat membantu semua pihak untuk duduk bersama agar kita dapat mengelola semua hal ini. Baik, terima kasih Dr. Ahmad. Kalau boleh, dalam 30 detik saja, seberapa sukseskah inisiatif ini? Seperti apa perkembangan yang telah dicapai? Apakah kita sudah punya roadmap untuk PBB tersebut dalam 30 detik saja?
Have a series of the seminar. Now we are in the stage having.
Jadi kita sudah menyelenggarakan seminarnya dan sekarang kita menyusun roadmap. Lalu tahap berikutnya adalah serangkaian lokakarya, di mana kita akan meminta lembaga PBB dan juga pihak-pihak lain untuk duduk bersama dan merumuskan mekanisme. Ya, jadi saya yakin lembaga-lembaga PBB lainnya dan MDB seperti kami menganggap bahwa ini merupakan berita baik. Karena memang sumber daya seperti ini dibutuhkan untuk menjalankan semua kegiatan PBB dan MDB. Pertanyaannya selalu adalah bagaimana kita dapat memanfaatkan sumber daya ini, karena akan mubazir sekali apabila kita tidak dapat memanfaatkan sumber daya dari negara-negara yang mungkin tergolong kaya. Dan seperti yang kita bahas, masalah tata kelola, masalah regulasi, dan sebagainya ini perlu dibuat lebih matang. Dan seperti yang tadi disampaikan, apabila kita bisa memobilisasi 10% saja dari ini, maka lembaga PBB dan juga MDB juga akan dengan senang hati memobilisasinya. Jadi terima kasih banyak, terima kasih Dr. Ahmad, dan saya kembalikan kepada Menteri Amado. Sayangnya memang waktu kita terbatas, tapi Bapak sudah jauh-jauh terbang dari Senegal, perjalanannya 32 jam untuk turut hadir. Saya yakin Anda punya banyak target lainnya. Jadi kenapa Anda tertarik untuk turut menghadiri acara G20 ini? Dan menurut Anda bagaimana G20 ini dapat terus mempromosikan inklusi, tidak hanya inklusi keuangan, tetapi juga negara-negara Afrika dalam proses pembangunan ini? Dan apa arti dari G20 ini untuk benua Afrika? Terima kasih banyak atas kesempatannya. Kami memang terbang 32 jam untuk turut hadir di seminar ini karena African Union diundang untuk menghadiri acara yang sangat penting ini di Bali. Selain itu, kami juga merasa bahwa
a true partner of the
agar benua Afrika dapat dianggap sebagai mitra sesungguhnya dari negara-negara ekonomi lainnya, kita harus tidak hanya menjadi anggota dari G20, tetapi turut terlibat dalam G20. Saat ini, G20 ini memberikan kontribusi 60% dari populasi dan 80% dari PDB. Tapi kalau misalnya kita masukkan benua Afrika, maka ini akan mencakup 80% dari populasi dunia. Tentunya ini akan meningkatkan kredibilitas dari G20. Selain itu, fakta bahwa banyak isu yang ditangani di forum ini juga menyangkut Afrika, tentunya membuat fakta bahwa pembuatan keputusan ini idealnya juga disepakati oleh benua Afrika. Karena kalau tidak, implementasinya akan sulit. Sebagai contoh, misalnya masalah perubahan iklim, masalah keamanan, masalah hutang, dan sebagainya. Semua masalah ini menyangkut benua Afrika. Dan target saya adalah besok bersama dengan para kolega lainnya, kami berharap bahwa African Union dalam hal ini bisa turut berperan.
But it's 4% of Africa's population. 96% of Africa's population is left out. And we think that it is about time to increase the credibility of the G20 by really having Africa having a chair at the G20. So we need to add one more chair, then we cover 80% of the world population, and have Africa propose solutions, and not just to be a continent that implements solutions structured by others. And I think this is really, really important, and my president also will come during the summit to also push for that, and we're hoping that this year in Indonesia, Africa will become a member of the G20. Each presidency achieves something big, and we hope that this will be among the big things that Indonesia will achieve, as I said in Sharm el-Sheikh, so that Africa can connect more with the G20, meaning that Africa will joko more with the G20. Joko means to connect in our language in Senegal, and the president of this country's name is Joko as well. So we're hoping that this is the year of Joko. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We need to do more Joko stuff all together. Well, thank you very much. This is very ambitious and but very fair. And if you are talking about inclusion at the micro level, we need to think at the inclusion also of at the macro level. And if the collective economies of Africa ranked like the eighth, you said?
The eighth, yeah.
The eighth economy in the world, So maybe you would agree that this really deserves a seat at the table at the G20, especially that the issue of inclusion is really high on the priority. So I hope they walk the talk as G20 countries, but I'm sure the presidency this year will take such an initiative to heart and probably do the best that they can. So all the best. Thank you very much for this, but this is another dimension of inclusion. So we cannot continue to think about the small financial inclusion at the micro level. We need to think of member countries, developing countries, how they are included in the general scheme of things. So the G20 should be the economic forum for the entire world. It's not the club of the rich only. And I think this is what we are hearing, and hopefully, inshallah, something will happen. Thank you very much, Mr. Amado. I think Governor Perry mentioned something about APIF, and President Al-Jasser also mentioned APIF, which is a fund for Awqaf property investment fund. And I think it deserves a couple of minutes of our attention as a practical tool, practical fund. It's not enough to speak about the theory of all of these things, but this is a manifestation of the investment in Awqaf. So if you don't mind, just play that short video, please.
The Awqaf Properties Investment Fund, APIF, is an impact investment fund managed by the Islamic Development Bank. APIF's objective is to ensure the sustainability, financial independence, and continuity of the social development of nonprofit organizations for the benefit of the Islamic Ummah. APIF's strategy relies on extending financing to develop revenue-generating Awqaf projects in accordance with the principles of Sharia. The fund provides a safe investment opportunity to achieve an outstanding social impact. Also, the fund is characterized by the following: its unique social impact, its low investment risk, since investments are made in US dollars and under the supervision and management of a AAA-rated international financial institution, increase in the net asset value, since the value of the certificates has increased from 10,000 US dollars at the inception of the fund to 11,589 US dollars by the end of the year 2020. This is in addition to the dividends distributed annually and compliance with the Sharia and legal requirements. Participation in the fund's capital is welcome from ministries, Awqaf institutions, Islamic banks and financial institutions, donor organizations and charitable institutions, and individual investors. For more details, visit APIF's website, www.isdb.org/APIF.
Well, thank you very much. This is very brief. But the idea here is to show that the robustness of the Islamic financial tools, not only in Awqaf, with everything else, as you understand, these Islamic financial instruments are no longer an ideological issue. They make business sense. They do have the case. This is why you see international banks opening Islamic finance windows, because they make sense in mobilizing resources and deploying resources and making profit, as you just saw. We saw the principles of APIF, but maybe it will come much clearer if we get an example. And I think we have Brother Yusuf Swedi, are you with us? Please, could you stand up and come forward? I know I prepared you for another question, but this video was very nice. This is Brother Yusuf from ID, a rising star in the field of Awqaf, mashallah. We don't want to embarrass you, but if somebody says this is theory, could you give us an example, specific example, and I will give you only 120 seconds. Can you do that?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rami. Actually, yes, I'd like to give two examples, if possible, in 30 seconds, hopefully. So the first is the Islamic Development Bank. It's called the ISDB BISEW, Bangladesh Islamic Solidarity Education Waqf. Actually, this is one of the earliest Awqaf projects conducted by the ISDB, but I'd say that it's one of the best really development projects in the world, in my personal opinion. It was established 20 years ago. It's basically, a high-rise building, a tower in the capital of Bangladesh, Dhaka. It has an adjacent computer mall, which is the largest in Bangladesh. The tower itself actually is rented from an income perspective. It's rented to the UN. So 9 floors out of I think 16 floors are rented to the UNDP, etc. So it generates really a strong cash flow. Actually, the ISDB's own offices in Bangladesh are rented from this Waqf property. And then it has a team of consultants who work on educational programs, developed and deployed based on those awqaf income. So I think to date they've benefited 43,000 beneficiaries. Their IT program alone is a flagship program which has graduated 7,000 people. It's placed 92% of those graduates into permanent good jobs. So I'd really say that this is an example of success. And perhaps the last point on this waqf is that 1/3 of the income on an annual basis has been put away in a sync fund. So today they've actually approved and the second phase, or they're working on the second phase of this waqf, based to a large part on that 30% that they were putting away annually. So it shows really an excellent example of bringing the word sustainable to sustainable development. The second example, if you allow me, in 5 seconds, because His Excellency, Minister Hott mentioned something very similar. We're working on an initiative related with the UNDP actually, on using awqaf to provide subsidies for electrification. And this is almost exactly what His Excellency mentioned in terms of, but in the context of job creation and entrepreneurship. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause for improvising on the fly. This is good example, 2 examples actually on education and electrification. So people might think that awqaf is just simply something you give charity to somebody hungry and you fill the day. This is not the issue here. Sustainability is at the heart of the concept of awqaf. So you can, did you say 43,000 scholarships? 43,000 scholarships from a building of 9 floors, and IDB is paying the rent, right? You're not taking these offices for free. You're paying the rent. Good. I think, thank you very much. This is very good examples. I'll go to Dr. Shu and then to Dr. Ahmed, and I will conclude with you, Minister Amado. Maybe you can also share with us later some examples from Senegal that goes along the same way. Dr. Shu, if I could come back to you, I was impressed when I read your CV and your activities in having 400 million people for inclusion in the ICT field. I think you were mentioning that there was an initiative that was done under your watch to ensure inclusion of 400 million farmers to have smartphones and be included in the system. Could you please shed some light on such an initiative and how it could be replicated employing awqaf and similar modes of financing, please?
Okay, that's
Biayaan seperti wakaf. Itu sebenarnya cerita yang sudah sangat lama sekali ya. Tapi coba rangkum dalam 1 menit. Pertama, dunia itu juga bergantung pada petani. Bukan hanya di negara-negara berkembang, tapi juga di negara-negara maju. Bagaimana kita kemudian bisa memodernisasi mereka? Itu merupakan pertanyaan besar bagi para pemimpin. Untungnya, kita juga mendapatkan dukungan yang sangat kuat sekali. Bukan hanya dari Menteri Keuangan, lalu kemudian Gubernur Bank Sentral, Menteri Industri, Menteri Pembangunan Nasional, Komisi, dan lain-lainnya. Tapi pertama kami sadari kami butuh infrastruktur untuk jaringan 4G ataupun 5G. Yang kedua, petani modern ini harus didasarkan pada digitalisasi. Jadi seperti yang sudah dikatakan oleh Bapak Gubernur BI, Pak Peri, kita perlu tata kelola digital, ekonomi digital, dan juga masyarakat digital. Dari masyarakat digital, maka Anda pun juga bisa membangun daerah pedesaan. Jadi kita harus memberdayakan mereka melalui pelatihan digitalisasi dan juga agar mereka bisa membangun desa digital. Nah, ketika kita bisa membangun desa digital, maka mereka akan bisa menjadi lebih berdaya. Nah, kebetulan kalau untuk di Tiongkok ini sudah mencapai 400 juta petani. Namun, setiap tempat itu akan punya sejarah yang berbeda. Mereka akan punya alat tani yang berbeda-beda juga. Ada yang mungkin alat bajak atau mungkin yang lain-lainnya. Nah, namun sekarang kita sudah mengatakan bahwa handphone, smartphone itu juga menjadi salah satu alat pertanian karena mereka bisa mendapat pelatihan, mereka bisa dapat informasi, dan mereka pun juga bisa mendapatkan input-input dan juga bisa memasarkan barangnya melalui e-commerce. Dan mereka pun juga bisa menjual produknya ke seluruh dunia. Jadi digitalisasi dari pangan dan pertanian itu menjadi esensial sifatnya untuk bisa mengisi kesenjangan antara kota dengan desa, antara laki-laki dan perempuan, antara si kaya dan si miskin. Digitalisasi menjadi salah satu solusi utama terutama untuk negara-negara dengan banyak populasi petani. Dan kita pertama ciptakan misalnya 1.000 desa petani dan kemudian terutama dengan komoditas-komoditas tertentu. Nah, tapi intinya kita harus membawa inovasi ke tingkat desa untuk bisa mentransformasikan sistem pertanian yang konvensional menjadi lebih modern. Terima kasih atas kesempatan yang sudah diberikan kepada saya. Dan bila Anda ingin mendapatkan informasi lebih banyak lagi, Anda bisa masuk ke dalam situs web FAO. Dan sekarang FAO juga tentunya sudah digital, seluruh informasi, dokumen, panduan teknis, dan lain-lain yang bisa Anda akses di situs web kami. Kami siap untuk bekerja sama dengan lebih dekat dengan Anda, dengan seluruh pihak dari pemangku kepentingan di sini, dan terutama juga dengan lembaga pertanian tentunya ya, untuk bisa membangun dengan lebih giat lagi agar kita bisa membangun kehidupan yang lebih baik, nutrisi yang lebih baik, dan membangun ekosistem yang lebih efisien, lebih inklusif, lebih tangguh, dan juga lebih berkesinambungan.
This is really very rich, and maybe it opens an idea for investment in the infrastructure reaching the poor. An endowment, for example, for reaching the poor might be an innovative mode of financing where you can make income that will make sure that we have the poorer areas really connected to the most empowering factor these days, which is the connectivity. So connectivity doesn't happen just by having a smartphone. You need to invest in the infrastructure. And maybe these might pose good opportunities for the endowment investment and awqaf investment. Thank you very much, Dr. Shou. We go to Dr. Ahmed. Here I have a philosophical question for you, but since you are an advisor to the UN Secretary General, and arguably many scholars think that people in the West have benefited from the awqaf school of thought, basically coming from the Islamic civilization, especially in Andalusia, current Spain. And they took these models and they became very efficient and very productive in this endowment. How do you see us doing some reverse learning now? How can we learn from the successful endowments in the West, basically to revitalize awqaf in the Islamic countries and in the developing countries? I mean, from your position, do you have any thoughts on this? And maybe some final words from your side will be also welcomed. Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you, Dr. Rami. Yes, of course. We, as I mentioned earlier, that awqaf has been very powerful tools and have very effective in the Islamic culture, not in the Western only. But if we have a look for the Zaytuna, for example, university, it is now more than 1,000 years. We have Al Mansoura Hospital in Egypt. It is also supported by Endowment. The Endowment or the Awqaf could be actually larger scale if we can utilize it in a proper way. And this is where I come from with the initiative. How can we utilize the awqaf, the zakat, and sadaqat, and sukuk, all the Islamic social finance? If we utilize it, we can get benefit from it, but we have to do it collectively and in holistical way and innovative way. I don't want to deal with the things as we used to do it, because every day there is a new thing. We've learned from the pandemic. We have a lots of innovative ways, so we can also align the awqaf investment with the SDGs to fill the gap where the people actually it's very needed. I'll give you an example. When I was in one of the Palestinian camps, when I visit that man, an old man, refugees in the camp, and I asked him about his home. Why there's a lots of cracks? He said we cannot get it prepared because we don't have enough money. And I asked him about the zakat. He said, yes, there is a zakat, but most of the zakat, it's not easy to transfer from outside to the other country. So the initiative actually that I'm trying to reach is how can we have this kind of a mechanism to help the donor in one hand, not only in the Islamic country and all over the world, the Muslim all over the world, to pay their zakat, to invest also in awqaf, to do their zakat, their sadaqat, through very trustful mechanism within the UN system. So this is the idea. So it is not matter of just to recall what we have in the past, but we have to also be very innovative, and we have to get out of the box and thinking in the future. Because even the scholar, I mean, some of the fatwa you mentioned about the scholar, but I mean, I will go to the fatwa. Some of the fatwa said, okay, how can we have a fatwa to pay our sadaqat or our zakat in particular through the UN? No, there is a fatwa, but how can we build the trust? How can we also make our mechanism complying with the Sharia? Because this is our need. This is a humanitarian need. It is not matter of the faith-based organization or not. No, it is a need. This is what we need. And nowadays, we reach to have the fatigue, donor fatigue, where we visit some of the country. They said, okay, until when we have to pay? So we have to verify diversity of the fund resource. We have to find other resources that help us to fill the gap in humanitarian in one hand, and also in the development in the other hand.
Thank you. I think what you are referring to is al-hikmatu dallatul mu'min. Wisdom is guidance for a believer. So if there is something that could work to achieve maqasid al-sharia, to achieve the objectives of sharia, we don't have to be boxed into the historic way of doing things. We have to open up and see what we can do as long as we are achieving the maqasid al-sharia, the objectives of al-sharia in particular. So it's not an issue of a fatwa here or a fatwa there. We need to have a systematic, good governance, and something that works, and something that makes sense for the development of the needy worldwide, basically. And this is something that we can offer to the table of the UN on other operatives. I see you eager to come back. 30 seconds, please. Go ahead.
I just want you mentioned very important point. We have to put our eyes in the end user or to the beneficiary rather than just we thinking how can we build the system. So if we have our target, how can we help the people? How can we get a proper system to help the people? We will find a way how to help the people rather than thinking about how can we do it.
Thank you very much. But let me just put a challenge out there, not for you personally, for all of us, especially those of us who believe in awqaf and Islamic social finance. If we don't succeed in making it work in our countries, don't expect the world to get the concept and really run with it, even if it makes sense. So we have to really make sure that we come up with successful experiences, solid projects, and then it could be replicated and scaled up. And this is really achieving the objective, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. This is what the Muslim way of thinking could offer to the global challenges. Time is taken. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. Again, I come back to our guest who is with us physically. I don't want to ask you any questions. I want to give you a couple of minutes just to emphasize the issue of Islamic social finance and how do you see it in the big picture of development, whether in Senegal, whether it's Africa or globally. Please, Minister Amado.
Actually, thank you, Rami. If you allow, I'll just to talk quickly about the concrete example in Senegal.
Go ahead, please.
Where the government actually offered a very valuable piece of land to the WAFC in the center of Dakar, and the entity is building apartment buildings and offices as well. And the rent, the income that will be generated will be used to modernize Quranic schools, build new ones, but also to have professional training, vocational training for those children in the future. So it's not just to learn the Quran and to understand it. It's also to learn about, let's say, concrete skills so that those children in the future can get jobs, can actually become entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. And the innovation here is also that the government is borrowing the funds to help the first project to be built, and then from that, the WAFC entity will just work itself to reinvest some of the income and to generate more income for the future. And for us, that's a very concrete example, and I know other countries like Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Mali are trying to use that same concept to help also modernize their Quranic schools, which are is a big part of our education system. Many people go to the, I would call Western school, but also many goes to the Quranic school. But in the past, we did not have, for example, vocational training with it. And going forward, we are trying to have that feature on the training for the kids, and also help them become in the future entrepreneurs, have their own companies, use their own skills to earn their living.
Excellent. Well, this is also another good example. We've heard the 3 examples here, but I think the key word here is the commitment from the government to make at least a project work, and then it could be replicated.
Absolutely. Here the government is borrowing. Many WAFs, somebody who has an asset, has money, make a donation. Here the government does it, but by leveraging, by using borrowings from the Islamic Development Bank, with the proceeds exclusively utilized to build the assets that will be there for the WAF.
Excellent. So we are concluding with a concrete example. We need to walk the talk. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لما تقولون ما لا تفعلون. Oh, who you believe, why you are preaching what you don't practice? So we need to practice what we are preaching in terms of awqaf and everything else that comes within the realm of Islamic social finance. This is the heart of maqasid al-sharia. This is where it works. It's easy to give theories, but we really need to have more examples where the world will really learn also and replicate, inshallah. I would have loved to take questions from the floor, but I have the organizers here telling me times is up, so maybe we can take one question or two questions very quickly. If you don't mind, I'm seeing our panelists with us. Can we take questions? Okay. First person here, okay. Please, could you stand up, identify yourself, and very quick question. A question, by the way, is defined with something that ends with a question mark. This is a question. So it's very small comments and a question to whom you are directing.
Yeah. Firstly, thanks for taking this question. So thanks for all of the esteemed speakers as well, Mr. Minister, and also ISDB rep, and also FAO, and also UN. Firstly, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dimas from Bank Aladdin Syariah. So basically, we are a fully digital bank focusing on serving the underserved. Yeah. And my question will be, actually it's directly to the ISDB. I've read that there are a couple of initiatives called Engage, where one call would like to say that it focuses on SDG, right? By providing a digital hub. So one thing that I want to understand further is that what is the lesson learned and also best practices related to building a banking services and also banking product for the financial inclusion? And also in the spirit of what Minister said, spirit of Joko, if our Aladdin Bank team can reach out to the ISDB team to discuss further about that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll give later. We'll take three questions and then we'll try to address them. We took one from the left, we'll take one from the middle and the sister on the right, and then we'll come back. I'll ask Brother Saleh Jalasi to perhaps to answer. You solved the answer. He's sitting next to you to answer your question, but we'd like the audience to hear the question. Please, gentleman in the middle, please identify yourself and the question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Masudi from Economic Sharia Community. One thing that we talk about Wakaf, what for the fund, I think the most important, if Mr. Perry just now said about the funding for mosque, school, and cemetery, but I think it is okay. But the most important in Indonesia, I think, is about how to empowerment some people in life in poverty. We have 26 million people live in poverty. So like Senegal, maybe giving skill, life skill for children, or small families, it is the most priority for Indonesia. Thank you.
Who are you addressing this comment or this question?
For the forum, I mean, for the, the official of this organization.
Okay, I think you have a good point. You have a good point, but let's see who would like to address it later. Please, our sister on the left. Thank you for the comment. Our sister on the left, please.
Oh ya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Alhamdulillah nizam yang libuhu al-batil bil nizam. So we believe that the organized truthful could be beaten by the organized falsehood. And I'm talking about the good governance that we have been actually addressing from the beginning. That Islamic social finance has been actually playing important role and has been embedded in Islamic finance. So what my question is how ISDB in this case, and of course the rest of the speakers who have had the thought of creating a global good governance into the Islamic social finance. Thank you.
Excellent point, excellent point. Let me just go to Saleh Jalasi, if you can bring the Pa Saleh is the director of the regional hub here in Indonesia, and many of the inquiries related to the IDB could also be directed to him. If you can take 1 minute, and then I'll go back to the panelists, each to say their one last minute, maybe addressing the questions of governance and the questions of the poor also, for 1 minute each, and then we have to close. Brother Saleh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rami. Actually, we have already, as His Excellency Minister of Senegal said,
speak up, please.
We have already joked with the colleague, and we have shared the information. However, let me add that as the Islamic Development Bank, we are already working with the different stakeholders, especially BASNAS, which is the Zakat Foundation, in order to build capacity on increasing zakat collection. As you know, the potential for zakat collection is so huge in a country like Indonesia. It's around 70 billion US dollars, if I recall rightly. The challenge, I think, in most developing countries is the human development. A human development in terms of education and health. And I think the PPP here, I think the purpose or the maqsad, as you have reiterated several times, is to include another P into the PPP model, which is philanthropy, to make the PPP model work for countries that are really need more concessional resources, especially in human development. So including the quadruple P, adding the philanthropy could really contribute too much huge, significantly, as His Excellency Minister Amado mentioned. He was referring to the bilingual education program, which is education and integrating madrasa in terms of equipping of the kids with conventional skills that could integrate those kids into the conventional system and make them more productive. So what I mean is there is a lot of potential in utilizing these social or Islamic modes like zakat, sadaqah, awqaf, in order to provide more concessional resources to build, to increase the human development and ultimately achieve the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please, if you have any specific questions related to IDB, please bombard Brother Saleh Ijlasi. I'm receiving many questions online. I really appreciate. Most of them are very relevant. Some of them have to do about cash sukuk, many of them about digital agriculture and the digital farmers also. I think we have how to implement Islamic fund for, I'm trying to read from here, agriculture for digital farmers also. So forgive me, but I think I will direct the last question to Dr. Shu, and and then I will go 1 minute each. Please feel free to address any of the questions that we just heard. Dr. Shu, please, 1 minute.
Okay, and thank you. And I started how to help the smallholder farmers. It's not a matter of their own. We need passion, we need humanity, we need inclusive.
Kita butuh kemanusiaan, kita juga butuh inklusivitas dan juga bantuan dari orang-orang yang lebih sejahtera atau kaya, bersama dengan kementerian, bersama dengan kewirausahaan, dan juga kita harus bekerja keras untuk bisa mempercepat skalabilitas SDG, terutama SDG 2 dan SDG 1. Jadi artinya kita harus bekerja bahu-membahu untuk mengentaskan kemiskinan dan rasa lapar sesegera mungkin. Dan kemudian kita bisa lakukan ini bersama bila kita menjunjung tinggi semangat solidaritas. Dengan presidensi G20, di mana Indonesia duduk sebagai presidensi, G20 akan memberikan kontribusi yang sangat bermakna untuk pemulihan dunia, bukan hanya ekonomi, tapi juga sosial dan juga hal-hal lainnya. Semoga sukses terus dan semoga sukses juga kepada rekan-rekan dari Afrika dan kita harus bersama-sama berjuang mencapai inklusivitas karena kita membutuhkan ini dengan segera. Saya rasa ini juga merupakan pertanyaan yang sudah kita jawab juga ya.
Thank you very much for your reply. And the question was how to implement and apply the Global Islamic Fund to digital agriculture or digital farmers. We need to move quickly. So thank you, Dr. Shu. Thank you very much for participating with us. Dr. Ahmed, last word, maybe the address the poor and the governance. Many people say it's good intention, people are giving money, but how do we know that it is really going to the right place? How do you weed out corruption from the Islamic social finance, if any? Please, your concluding remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Rami. I think, as our sister said, it is the nizam or the organization or the system. This is what we need, and this is what we are trying to do actually with the initiative. We have to bring everyone and listen to everyone and not leave anyone behind and take the thought, because each of the country has their own system and they have their own way to do the Islamic social finance. And what we need here, we need to understand what the Islamic social finance and what the system in the UN, and how can we bring this both system together and try to build our mechanism accordingly. And that's the best way to do the governance and to understand very much how can we implement it afterwards. It is not only the system, but also how can we implement. This is why we are thinking how can we, our system to be compliant with Sharia, because especially the zakat, we have a specific way to spend the money. So the key word is, it is the partnership, it's to work together, it is also come up with innovative solution rather than just stick with what we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Al-Muriqi from Qatar. Thank you very much. Finally, last but not least, your closing 1 minute, Minister Amado.
For me, it's very important to have a very strong governance. That's why in our country we have a very strong board with a CEO that was recruited from the central bank with a lot of experience. And the board is composed also of many people that have experience in the financial sector. And all the auditing agencies of the government also can audit this WAF agency at any time during the year. And I think we need to strengthen the governance so that we can encourage more people to provide resources to these very important initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for the audience and for the organizers and for our panelists. Please help me thank the panelists for one last time. Thank you, Dr. Shu, Dr. Ahmed, and Minister Amado. Thank you very much. I turn it back to Ibo Dian, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much once again. Thank you once again to our moderator, Dr. Rami. So thank you to the Governor of Bank Indonesia, President of the ISDB, and also, of course, our distinguished panelists, all of the speakers today, Minister of Economy, Planning and Corporations of the Republic of Senegal, Director General Food and Agriculture of Organization, Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General, and also our moderator, Dr. Rami Ahmad. So once again, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving another round of applause to all of the panelists and also the moderator. Thank you. You may now return back to your chair. Thank you, Excellencies. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude our event today, we would like to give you some important information. Ladies and gentlemen, please scan the barcode, the QR code, which is available on each table and also on your screen for our virtual participants. Give us your feedback regarding this event, as your response significantly contribute to the upcoming event. Thank you. And after this session, we will serve the coffee and also tea in the dining room located beside this room, or located beside Pecatutu, where you enjoy your lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we come to the end of our high-level discussion on financial inclusion, optimizing endowment fund for sustainable financial inclusion. Success stories and good practices of endowment management should be used by others as benchmark to further spur the vibrancy of endowment across countries. By optimizing endowment fund, make sure it is properly developed, managed, and utilized. We can harness its potential for a sustainable financial inclusion. It is time to put strategies and plans into actions. Thank you. I'm Dian Ariswari signing off. And once again, have a great day here in Bali. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon.